And
And
welcome to This Week in Worcester podcast. I am Tom Marino, editor of This Week in Worcester. This is Mr. John Edward. I am sick, Hio.
I was sick. I'm still a little sick. I'm getting better, but I don't feel good.
He is the executive producer of Managing Media and president of Say It.
Hollywood Film Group, baby.
That's just going to be the thing. You're going to say it now. Um, we were missing in action last week, but we have a whole bunch of things to talk about.
Yeah, we do. We got all kinds of fun stuff.
We're gonna do better staying on topic today because we have more items than usual, right, John?
No way at all. I
Probably not.
refuse to stay on topic.
That is apparent. Uh, for first up on the list, it is like it's like Groundhog Day, once a year. We have the same. We just relive the same day. Everything's fine. Everything's fine with Polo Park. Everything's fine. Lo and behold, the guarantees that everything would be fine seem to have fallen short.
Everything's not fine with Polar Park?
You don't say.
No way.
So there was 235,000 in the reserve coming into this past fiscal year, and then when they were reconciling,
Hold on. Explain that reserve to the watchers of the show. What do you mean by reserve?
gotcha. So they have to do this project. They created a district, a tax increment. No, it's not a TIF. I forget what it's called, but it's a district which
it's a diff instead of
a diff. Thank you. And district improvement financing is what that stands for. And they created a section of the city, the ballpark, and some adjacent properties, where the revenue from that area alone would pay for the ballpark. Now, at first, it was just the ballpark and the two properties that were supposed to be developed by Madison Properties. And then somewhere along the way, we extended that to include some other properties on Green Street, namely the old Cove building and where what am I looking for? What's the other building that's included? I forget.
The
Remington, correct. So they expanded the area from which these taxes were going to pay for the debt payments from the gigantic loan the city took out to do this project. And only the taxes from that area were supposed to pay for this ballpark project. And when they sold, so then when they added more property into this area, one of the things they did is the city owned what was the Cove building, and they sold that. And that and another property that they sold in the area was what created the reserve. Right. There was a few $1 million in it a couple of years ago. Last year, it came down to 235,000. And after expending that money, there was still a deficit from this area of over $500,000 for fiscal year 2014, which ended June 30th.
500,000. That seems like a lot, Tom.
The city's debt obligation this year was $6.2 million, so it did cover a lot. Last year, when we were doing the budget for the budget that was being prepared for this fiscal year that's now ended, I had some questions about the numbers that they had put forward. It seemed to me that they're going to need a near 80% revenue increase to cover because they had a shorter reserve left, right? And the city did not take too kindly to what I thought was pretty common sense math. If you have 235, you need 6.2. You only did whatever it was, 3.1 or something last year. You need a big increase.
Not only that, I mean, in every minor league ballpark construction deal in the country in the last 40 years, there has yet to be one where a city was profitable. But it's very bad, Tom, to question whether this one would be profitable. It's never happened in 40 years.
Well, Well, it's not only minor league parks. I mean, the current iteration of Yankee Stadium was supposed to have all this development come up around it and do all this stuff that never, of course.
Oh, Tom, I was told that I cannot bring up major league stadiums because they have different economics, and so therefore I'm not allowed to bring up things. I'm only allowed to talk about minor league baseball stadiums.
Okay, I don't know who's setting your rules, but those aren't my rules.
I was told that by both our lovely mayor and the city manager that is the way to define this is as a city, a municipality that has gotten a loan, it has a little district around it that's going to lead to economic benefit for the city, specifically minor league parks. So I should compare our city to other cities that have minor league ballparks. Not to say that this actual minor league team existed in a city in this region just down the road on 146 in Pawtucket, and they almost completely bankrupted that city when they were in that town, and then they moved here. So they saw that this team, this organization, has a track record of making a lot of money for the town with which in they live, or sell tickets, blah 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 blah. But hey, it looks cool. They got a cool stadium. It has a heart in the lights. Light hearts.
That was worth it. Last year and this year, this past fiscal year, 2004, and I believe is it this upcoming year, 2005, not 2004, 2024, and 25 was supposed to be the most difficult years of the financing over 30 years. So says the city last year. Will this thing end up making money the way that they've constructed its financial viability? Probably. But I mean, understand, some of those properties wouldn't be developed without the ballpark, I guess. The other side of that is that those, they've essentially taken those properties off the tax rolls to pay for the stadium. So you're still paying for it.
But I thought that we got mad when we took buildings off of the tax rolls. Aren't we supposed to get mad when that happens? Like, say if like a college did that?
It's only colleges though. If it's
okay, all right.
Yeah,
I'm just trying to make sure that I understand exactly what's going on in these.
If it's a big giant company, we don't talk about that because we're going to beg them for money at some point, I guess.
So the best part is that I read your article about the WRA meeting, but I went and watched the WRA meeting. My favorite part of the WRA meeting was the back and forth from the chair with Madison Properties and with Madison Properties didn't send anybody, but
they sent their lawyer.
They sent their lawyer. And his incredulity, he was like, we're shocked that this major developer, who, by the way, has done this before in towns in Massachusetts, which is even better. They have pulled out of TIFs and DIFs that they have been involved with in the last 10 years. It can't get any better than this. They have a track record for doing exactly what they did. Not only that, the city manager and the mayor used the term disrespectful as the letter that they wrote to the city to tell them that they've done it. Do you know they've done that before too? To other towns in Massachusetts. So, hey, maybe, I don't know, just a thought, Tom, I really I don't want to criticize anybody. I don't want to come across as saying anything negative, but maybe when we look at a developer that we're going to give control over a significant potential economic engine in the city, maybe we do a little background check on that company and see, hey, have they ever screwed anybody? Right? Have they hosed the town in Massachusetts in the last, I don't know, let's just give a number, the last decade? Oh, it turns out they have. Maybe that shows you, right? So, because I have a question, Tom, just real quick. When you apply for a rental unit in one of those buildings, do you have to prove that you're a viable renter to get an apartment in one of those buildings?
Well, I believe you do.
Hey, and Tom, I have a question. In Massachusetts, how long can they hold like a default or a rental court case against you in Massachusetts? Do you know? Do you happen to know that number?
I think it's 7 years, right?
Oh, 7 years. So let's say a company defaulted on a deal with a city within the last 7 years, wouldn't we view them in the same way that the city allows buildings to view potential renters? Shouldn't we have the same standard? Isn't that like normal? So this is where I disconnect from the city's thinking process. They are for developers and not for the people. They consistently, top to bottom, city manager after city manager, mayor after mayor, city councilor after city councilor. Not every single city councilor, by the way, because some of them are actually good. They go for the developers. They care about what the developers think, and they do not hold developers to the same standard that they hold people trying to get apartments. That is a fact. You can't argue with it. They hold apartment getters to a higher standard than developers. It is what it is.
And of course, look, I wrote a piece a few months ago. I don't know, maybe it was only a month ago, but on the WPI disaster with the hotels, and I said, I think it was called the myth of corporate partners. Corporations are not your partner.
They don't care about
sole focus. Their obligation is to make money for their investors. That is their only purpose. That's it. They're not partnering with you. They are seeking to extract money. Now that isn't necessarily bad, and can be there can be deals done and constructed that are mutually beneficial, but they do not care at all if the other side of the arrangement benefits. They care about their own benefits because that's their obligation. They don't owe you anything. They owe their investors return on their investment. Now,
they don't care about us.
And I don't know. I'll be the first to say I don't know what the legality is here, but when we look at these TIF agreements, they do seem, I don't know what laws may restrict the covenants within that agreement. So I could be off here, but they seem like we'll give you a bunch of tax money for free. You don't have to pay increases on the taxes or some portion of the increases on the taxes that sometimes add up to, millions of dollars over, 10, 15, 20 years, whatever it may be. But that's about it. And, what seems like would make a lot of sense to me is you get this tax break because you're going to have shovels and you're going to have that property permitted for work. You will pull permits by X day.
I think that's
there's a pandemic? That sucks. Build.
Right. I agree with all that. How about this, Tom? How about this? How about basically it says we give them tax money and we hope that they don't pull out because there's no penalties in the contract for them deciding they don't think they can do it. And it was great. I love the lawyer. The lawyer was a good lawyer, man. You should get that guy as your lawyer. When he used the term aspirational goals. So these goals that were part of a government document, a tax decrease, whatever you want to say, a change in revenue that we were shifting towards this company in exchange for them to build this building or buildings that were going to generate economic activity, that they had no financial penalties for pulling out. I have a question, just real quick.
Let me just
have you ever had a lease though? Have you ever had a lease?
Let me just add context here because we kind of
we're
kind of juggling both topics. So part of the reason why that this fund established to pay for the ballpark didn't get to where they had believed it would get to this year is because some of those buildings aren't done, haven't opened, and at the same time as this deficit was announced for this past year, Madison Properties notified the city that it would not build the building over the left field wall that was part of the original plan here. They're going to build two buildings.
Wait. You're telling me that a contractor that builds buildings didn't build the buildings on the same time schedule that they originally proposed?
Oh, they're not going to build it at all.
Oh, they're not even going to build it at all. Wow, that's amazing.
And so,
like, dude, do you know the developers literally that's what they do? They do this all the time. How does the city not know that this is what they do? It just doesn't make any sense to me that this is something that we allow our our elected and appointed officials to just negotiate these contracts. They're literally being taken for it. They're all being taken left and right. Ed Augustus won't answer the phone to anybody. Won't give a comment about it. Nothing. Right?
nope.
No one will answer any questions about this. And then Mayor Petty is on, Hank's show saying that, we got to wait out the process. In the meantime, the city had to spend current cash, right? Am I right? To cover this shortfall. Current actual cash, like money had to be moved from one account to another account, whatever. Correct me if I'm wrong. What if we have a crazy winter? Let's just say we have a crazy winter this year, right? I mean, we've had some mild winters, like 3-4 in a row. But let's just say this year we have a 20 snowstorm winter, and we need to get leftover money from some other account to take care of the snow plowing or whatever, or whatever we need to do. Wouldn't this be a place that we go to for it? I mean, I don't know. I'm not saying that this account is normally there, but now that money's not available, so now we have less available to handle actual living current emergencies for people in 2024 versus the people in the city of Worcester in 20. When do we pay this thing off? 2030, whatever.
48 or something.
Oh wow! So
it was 30 years. Yeah.
So, I mean, that's the kind of thing that makes no sense. And, pushing things off into the future, no tangible benefits, no direct benefits. And there's a big component to this that seems to be missing. And I never hear them talk about it, but I'll ask you about it. What if the team sucks?
I mean, that's, probably likely given how well put together the major league team is.
Well, I mean, we know the owner of the Red Sox, of the major league team, has completely ramped down investment in that team for many, many, many years. Of course, the way that you offset major league teams being, not as invested in is you try to have like young up and coming kids. But the thing is it's 2024, right? Which they do have some, sure. Some depending on how you look at the rankings, right? But to do that, you have to have like a pipeline of stuff. They've also ramped down their spending in the minor league area, which usually portends poorly for the system of players going along. And what we're looking for is like a 2 to 3 year window every like half a decade where the team is good because the young players that want to make it to the major league, they're good, right? That's generally how it works. What if they suck for 10 years? What if they suck for 10 years? You know what happens to minor league teams that suck for 10 years? They cease to exist. Like this is, I mean, we've been lucky.
Well, I don't know about that. The team's not going to not exist. If they're, I don't know how many people go to Polo Park. I haven't been, and it doesn't excite me very much. But I don't know how many people go for how good the team is, and this gets into a whole marketing thing about user experience or fan experience, and
sure,
whatever they're doing. And it's a kind of a different topic, but nonetheless, I mean, I'm not sure how good or bad the team is really going to matter. Yeah, they get a bump from when Sale pitched there last year before they got rid of him, and he's now the best pitcher in the National League.
How come we can't get players like that?
Well, he is the dumbest human alive, but let's not get sidetracked. So, all this, it was going to pay for itself every year. Well, now, not only does the city have this loan it's going to pay every year, it's now basically loan the project the $500,000.
Not only that, but they have to do public relations basically to kind of like assuage the voters and assuage the people that are upset about this basically every 3 months, because so far there's yet to be like a checkpoint in the process of this 30-year plus contract where they've done the things they said they were going to do. None of the buildings opened on time. Polo Park was delayed. It cost more money than we originally projected. The buildings cost more money than originally projected. Oh, and the rental numbers that they said that they were going to charge for the buildings, turns out that wasn't true either, and it's higher than we originally projected. Every single thing that they said was going to happen has yet to happen once. So now we waste resources having the city manager have to go put out fires at different legacy newspapers, who, by the way, never really looked into this story to begin with, and criticized you and me and others who actually just asked legitimate questions like, hey, how are we gonna do this? And we were hosed and stuff like that. Worcester Business Journal, Telegram and Gazette. You guys were all in on this thing. So where's your explanation now?
Whoa. The Business Journal has probably done the best work on this. I don't know where you're getting that.
Yeah, they did the best work covering for them. My opinion, by the way, not the opinion.
Yeah, I don't know where you're getting that. I mean,
or Tom Marino, just John.
I mean, they were the ones that had the story on when they expanded the diff zone. I don't know. It seems to me like they do the comparison of 10 sports economists too, and the one that said this was good was the guy that the city hired.
That is true. By the way, that even makes this even better.
I forget if it was them or not. I think it was though.
Yeah, I don't know. All I'm saying is that it seems like there was a lot of buy-in from the typical elite kind of groups, and it turns out that maybe things didn't look exactly as they were, and now we're going to have to listen to defense, because now they're on defense. And it looks like every year, if it doesn't hit that number, it looks like they're going to run defense. And now because they're in a deficit this year, it looks like it'll probably push that for years and years and years. And so especially what you said is they projected that these would be the worst years anyways, but they were worse than the worst projection that they had. So now we're dealing with a snowball effect of, hey, it's not working. Also, again, one of the things if you go onto the Cove and District 120 and the Revington's projections, right? So those are those three major buildings that are currently open and accepting people to go lease in there. They all expected to be sold out right now. And it turns out the market is telling you something in that they can't sell, $2,200 studios. Turns out there's not a market for that here in the city of Worcester. And part of the reason is the district isn't finished, because they had said one of the reasons that would attract people is to have this finished neighborhood, and it's not finished. So
yeah,
people aren't going to.
The thing that's interesting to me is that every piece of this, at every stage, when something, I mean, look, the pandemic obviously had an effect, and then later interest rates rose, that makes cost of capital. But why is that always on the city? Something happened, so these people that we got to agree to do these things now aren't going to do them, and that's just fine.
Yeah, so Madison, again, they're skating because no one really wants to go after them, and that's the thing, is that these developers just don't really ever have to answer for anything. They can just move to another town and go do the same thing somewhere else, and there's no consequences for them. But, again, if you didn't pay your rent one time last year, it's on your credit report for the rest of your life. And, well, at least 7 years in Massachusetts. Yeah. And so now you can't move to a town that same company moved, and, you might not have made your $750 rent while they're skirting on millions of dollars. And yes, I get that it was projected future revenue, but it was projected future revenue that a deal was made a part of by the city, in my opinion, against the will of the voters, because this was never put to a vote by the city, right? So it's not like, people have ever been able to weigh in on it. It's just been this group of people that want this thing to go through. And again, by the way, I think it's cool that we have a minor league ballpark. I went down there; it looks nice. It's cool. I'm down. But the numbers that they were talking about were always imaginary. It was made up. They made up numbers.
And now the team has been sold. Now, so the profits so we got a bunch of seasonal, we got mostly seasonal service jobs that pay at or near minimum wage.
Yeah.
And whatever profits are being extracted to New York, to the company that now owns the team.
Oh yeah, so we don't get the taxes on that? Do we not? Is that how that works? Is that?
Oh no, it does.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay. Yeah.
yeah.
So by the
You know,
way,
it's still paid.
we it's too long for us to explain minor league economics and why it works that way. But anyway, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. So here we are, currently $500,000 down. You know, I wouldn't be surprised to see if that happens. You know, I don't know to what extent, but you know, I wouldn't be surprised to see this not go well again this year, and then probably start catching up after that. So it was always the prediction that these would be the toughest years, but it was also a prediction that it would year by year pay for itself.
Hey, last analysis before we move on to the next ridiculous subject. But my last analysis is this: the mayor and the city manager took the tone like, "Hey, we always said this was going to be bad, and so you know we have to wait," which again is pushing it past the decision of the voters. Right? They're hoping that this has no consequences in the upcoming municipal election. Right? So they're the two worst years being this year and next year, and hopefully they'll have pushed it past that particular time and they don't have to wade through that. And I hope the voters of Worcester see that that is a part of a game plan to tell you, hey, you don't have to worry about this now because we're going to deal with this years and years down the line, which allows them to have no electoral consequences. But you have to hold them accountable for the fact that it has not delivered now, not 30 years from now. So, you know, Worcester voters, I hope that you're paying attention. I really, really do. And hold people accountable for what they say.
Yeah, I mean, you know, if you're one of the people that voted for this and are still in council, or if you're challenging one of the people that voted for this and still in council, this seems like it's going to be a ripe topic for like the election cycle.
And by the way, when they do all the panels, you know, the nine member city council debates, you know, where they ask the same question to all 9 people. How about instead of asking if they all adhere to democratic orthodoxy, we ask them specific questions about the city of Worcester, like, hey, how come the Polar Park hasn't paid for itself in this year, and blah 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 blah. Let's hold them accountable for stuff here that matters here, and not just hold. By the way, I want to say this: not just hold Attell accountable. By the way, they love holding Attell accountable in District 5, right? But they don't want to hold the rest of them accountable. So let's talk about all of the councilors, not just one.
Right.
Sorry.
I'm gonna hiccup here because I need to. So don't get scared.
We're playing a video, and it's about the school committee. So get ready for the video. And Tom has a green screen behind him.
So this is a few minutes long, but this is from the school committee meeting of this Thursday. And I don't know, it annoyed me. It highly irritated me. So let's see what everyone thinks.
I think the policy is already clear. The policy states that students that are involved in fights where other children are hurt or staff members are hurt, students that bring the weapons to school, the ones that aren't reported, but bring the weapons to school, those students do need to, we need to follow, you know, the policy said those students can be suspended. Also, I looked at the number of days, that was also in the report that we all received, the number of student days missed for suspensions, and the majority of those days missed 3 to 5 days. So students that are really committing very serious, concerning discipline issues, the majority of them are only receiving 3 to 5 days, if that. Those students can be suspended and long-term suspended for those disciplines.
So just before we play the response here, which is absolutely excellent, we're not throwing enough kids out of school for long enough.
There is no evidence in history of American schools that suspensions lead to lower behavioral outcomes. You should never have had this job. Continue.
Arrived in Worcester Public Schools, there was a practice of suspending children for extreme amounts of time. When I arrived, there were 379 children that we had long-term suspended out of our schools. That's if we average about 11,000 children in the 7th through 12th grade, that's 3% of our children that we said, you may no longer be educated by Worcester Public Schools. We will send you somewhere else. And I believe, personally, that morally, it's our responsibility to do everything we possibly can to educate them within our walls, not send them to someone else. Now, if indeed they need something else because that's what their need shows, then that's what we do. But that's not 3% of the population. That's about 1%, which is where we're at now. So it is very much the responsibility of the educators. It's our moral responsibility to make sure that we are meeting the needs of our children. When a child misbehaves, 13 years old, 15 years old, instead of us saying, you don't belong here, we're going to send you somewhere else because you're not valuable to us, I stop and I say to myself, what has happened in that child's 13 years of life that leads them to behave this way? In their 15 years of life, and then what are we going to do about it? Because we are the professionals, and I believe in the educators that we have and what they can do. I will not just send children out because someone says that restorative justice doesn't work, when indeed we know that the research shows over and over and over again that it absolutely does.
Preach.
Is it perfect? No, it is not. But to send a child somewhere else and send them to the streets is a travesty. And I'm going to close with my final thing. Within my first month of being the superintendent here, I had to attend a funeral. I had to attend a memorial of a group of children that were 13 years old, 15 years old, who we had said, you don't get to be with your peers. We're sending you off into an alternative setting. And one of those children died. And other children in that car have permanent damage. And you know what is the most amazing part of it? The individual who pulled the children out of the car and saved their lives was another child that we had sent to an alternative setting when they were much younger. That child is a young adult now. That child can't get himself on track. I have reached out to him multiple times. But yet, he was the one person who saved these children. I can't be a superintendent who says that one child's life is more important than another. We are implementing the policies here. Children make mistakes. We are disciplining them for their mistakes. We are suspending children appropriately. We are taking children and doing what we need to do with them. But I will not be a superintendent that throws children away, not one single child. With that, I'm going to have the team respond to what Desi has shared.
I mean, could there be a more perfect answer?
No.
I mean, like at this point, you know, all gloves are off with Maureen. She's ridiculous. She it's mind-boggling. And you know, Tom, I come from this from a very personal standpoint. I was in foster care as a child. I was disciplined in these ways that Maureen has talked about. She has no science, and any voter who supports this, you're an idiot. I have no problem saying it. That's my opinion, not This Week in Worcester, not Tom Marino. I'm telling you to your face that you do not know how to handle a child, and you should never be in charge of a child if you think that because this kid who's 13 or 14 or 15 years old comes to school and gets into a fight, that he deserves immediately to be suspended for the history of his life and moved out of the Worcester Public Schools, which is both a permanent damage to him or her or them as an individual, but also we have to pay for it. So now you're increasing the school budget that you complain about. We don't have enough money to pay for this. We don't have money to pay for that. And then at the same time, you're sending this kid off to permanent damage. There's stuff that I still can't get out of my head. It messes me up from things that happened to me when I was 13, when I was suspended for the wrong reasons. And no educator ever talked about me like Superintendent Rachel spoke about those kids right now. That's how you want a teacher to speak. That woman should be in charge of the school system forever. I have no problem with evaluating her or challenging her or asking her to do better. That's great. But she's a professional superintendent, a real administrator who knows what she's doing. And Maureen Bindienda, you have no idea. I don't care how many years you were in the Worcester Public Schools. You should be ashamed of yourself for saying the things that you say. You are not for children. You're only for yourself, you selfish human. Thank you. Sorry. Lost my mind. That's how I feel about it.
I mean, you know, look, I don't necessarily go after people. I'm tough on people and I think they deserve it. I don't necessarily go after people. I did a 4-part piece on the school committee, you know, earlier this year during the budget time, because the nonsense that went on was just so ridiculous. And who benefits? So the argument, and there was a few cuts in that just for time. You know, you can see the whole exchange at about an hour and a half in the most recent school committee. You can find that on the school department's website. You know, she's kids aren't being suspended enough or for long enough. Like, I will just, you know, who benefits from that, right? So the argument that they make here is that you know, I think she even said prior to where the video started that, you know, kids are now asking their teachers, why are these disruptive students being left here to you know, stunt my educational growth or whatever. I mean, you know, sometimes you need to remove kids from classrooms. It doesn't mean you need to send them home forever.
By the way, there's no 13-year-old ever who's asked that question. That was asked by a parent to Maureen on the side. No student has ever gone up to a teacher and say, this other student is stunting my educational growth because of their behavior.
That's not exactly how she phrased it.
Yeah. But that's basically what she's saying. She's saying that students are going to teachers and complaining about other kids. And listen, it's not to say that kids never complain about kids, because they do. But my question is this, Tom, right? So we usually, you ever see in the NFL when there's like a guy who like does something and then the other guy comes in and he hits the guy and then he gets the flag, right? We always penalize the guy who gets caught red-handed, right? But if you've been around children in an educational setting, let me tell you, it's often the kid who hooks off, who takes a shot at another kid, has been the one who was ragged on by somebody else for a long period of time, right? So now we take the kid out of the classroom because they fought, because physical violence is not how we want them to respond. But there's more work to be done, because it's not always that end result that should be the thing we are analyzing. Yeah, they did a bad thing, and we should work on that kid doing the bad thing. But they're not like a dog who bit somebody for the first time, and now you have to worry that the dog is going to bite someone for the rest of its life. That's not the same situation. These are children who there might be more to the story. Like, for example, if someone was picking on them, calling them names, which, by the way, kids tend to do. They do it at home. They do it in school. They do it in private school. They do it in public school. They do it on the streets. They do it on the internet. And in today's environment, our educators are also forced to deal with the outcomes of digital decisions, something we'll talk about later on in the show. Sometimes you say something online, it has consequences in real life. These kids are living in a world where that is literally their daily reality. So now we're going to permanently exclude them from the education thing that we think is the best for them and send them somewhere else that we have to pay for. And now we don't know what the outcome is. Like she said about this student who saved the other students all in an alternative school and can't get himself back on track. Hey, by the way, that kid is me. That kid is me. Once you go into the alternative system, it's so difficult to operate. You don't know, you don't have the same educational outcomes. I'm lucky. I really truly am. I'm a very blessed dude in that I happen to be really smart and I have a great memory. So I was able to get through all the tests because I could memorize stuff, and so that it allowed me to kind of move through school. And so I never got really set back. But there were kids in those programs. I know them. They're in prison for life. They've never gotten untracked. You know what I mean? They're in and out of jail all the time, or they're high, or they're going through all these situations. Why do we want to condemn more kids to that? Oh man, it's just so much. And again, the data says that Maureen is wrong everywhere, not just here in Massachusetts, not just here in Worcester. There is no education system in the world that says that what she says is right. Everywhere it's wrong. She's the outlier in every single study. We're not talking about 1 or 2 or 3, and we're not talking about liberal or conservative. We're talking about everywhere from every angle. Suspension and punishment out of school always leads to bad educational outcomes. Discipline within the school context, consistently and regularly, as Superintendent Monner has pointed out, leads to better outcomes. Consistently and regularly for 30 years, we've been saying this. 30 years. She's just wrong, Tom. She's just wrong. And her voters, the people who voted for her, you're all wrong. You're all wrong. You sent an angry, upset person in to be the school committee member. She doesn't care about children. She only cares about trying to make Superintendent Monterez look bad. She's literally a useless politician. She's wasting all of our time. That's what she's doing. And I don't care what anybody has to say about that. And come see me in person. We'll talk about it.
The only way I can describe this whole experience of this woman on the school committee is Hillary Clinton in 2017.
Oh, when she became Sen-
No, when she lost
yeah,
to Trump, and then wrote a book and went on the hate tour to blame everybody but herself.
It's mind-boggling, Tom. Mind-boggling. And then there's
mind
people on the committee that support everything she says, which makes them even worse than her. Listen, it's not to say that none of the policy ideas could potentially be good. I actually think Kathy Roy, lifelong teacher, has some good ideas every once in a while when she speaks, which is rare. But because she's associated with this person, I don't know that you can trust her to make good school committee decisions. And I'm sorry, Kathy. I know you. You know I don't mind you. But this is terrible being associated with that. I want to see some bravery from Diane and Kathy to stand up against this nonsense, but they won't, because the only reason they're there is for her, which is crazy. This is a waste of our time, Tom. Like, at least if there was going to be 3 oppositional school committee members, awesome. At least be policy based and actual facts based, not the weapons are being hidden by the teachers. Are you serious? Are you serious? You're telling me you think a kid can get away with a weapon in 2024 and no one's going to know about it and teachers are not going to write it up? You're just insane. You're just insane. You think the kid with the knife or a gun? Listen, we've seen these reports. The kids are filming this stuff on Instagram, Tom, and she's saying it's being hidden. In what world? In what world? What are you talking about?
That's about that. What she's referring to is reports to Desi that there were no weapons seized in the last year or something like that.
Oh, isn't that a good thing?
It's apparently not believable.
Oh, it's not believable. Oh, okay, because there's a vast conspiracy for all the teachers, by the way, including apparently all the conservative teachers, to like hide the fact that children are having weapons in school. And this has never come out anywhere from anybody, any credible source. There's not a child that has a video on a phone that they use constantly during school, or a teacher's aide, or an upset lunch lady. No one's ever reported it. No one, nowhere. You guys are ridiculous. You guys are like listen, I love conspiracy theories. I think they're great sometimes, but they have to be based in reality for them to be reasonable for us to discuss. So into 2024, no one nowhere saw it. There's cameras everywhere, guys. What are they talking about? What are they talking about, Tom? It's nonsense.
And it is very interesting how on the same page that Biancaria and Benenda seem to be. People don't seem to remember that Biancaria was a school committee member when the decision was made not to renew Benenda's contract, and she voted not to renew.
And yet she still goes so that's awesome. Great, best decision Diane ever made. But now she supports everything that she does, and she doesn't stand against open and obvious. this is the other thing too, Tom. There's no provision in the Worcester City Charter really for us to hold them accountable in any ways. Some of the stuff that Maureen is saying is just outright lies, literally lies that can be verified that they are lies. Literal evidence that you can get on your own, that you can say she is 100% a bold-faced liar. And I'm saying it right to your face, Maureen, you're a liar. And there's no way to hold her accountable. We can't arrest her for it. We can't fine her. We can't hold her accountable. The chairman of the school committee is never going to do anything like he's done in the regular city council, where he's held people in contempt. Hold her in contempt, Joe. Hold her in contempt for lying about our kids. That's what she's doing. She's lying about our children on the school committee floor, and you're letting her get away with it. Hold her in contempt. Do something to stop this woman from her constant nonsensical behavior. It's nonsensical, and I don't care what anybody says about it. Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. You can't. You can't prove me wrong. And of course, here's the thing, Tom. We have to anticipate the next tragedy, because if there's a tragedy, they're going to use this as proof that she was right, which is stupid. It's stupid. Of course, there's going to be something that happens. It happens in our world because our country is dumb with its rules, the way we allow children to be harmed, and in so many different ways. I could lose my mind just screaming about it all night long. But the fact is that we allow our children to be hurt and harmed for no reason at all, for stupid rules and regulations. The entire sex abuse crisis in all the churches and all the schools could have been stopped by one rule, which is called the 2-adult rule. It's basic, it's simple, it's easy. 99% of all harm could have been stopped, but people were like, hey, we should trust this guy with these kids. Like that's the way we operate in society. Stupid, just absolutely stupid. And so the stuff that she's saying is made up, complete and utter nonsense, and that's how we have to treat her from now on. And I promise you, and I have no problem doing this. I'm going to be at all of those debates when she runs against next year, and I'm going to bring up the fact that she hates kids. She hates children, and her rhetoric proves that she doesn't care about kids. She only cares about herself. Wait till you see me at those meetings next year, because I promise you I will be there, 100%.
Yeah, there's a lot of speculation on what Benenda's going to do in the next election cycle.
Yeah, people think she's going to run for mayor. Let me tell you, man. If she announces for mayor, I announce for mayor. I'm running against her. And I'm going to run just against her. Just against her. I won't even do it. I'll just run just to be against her. I'm serious. I'm dead serious. That's a live breaking news on This Week in Worcester. If Maureen Benenda announces for mayor, John Eberkio announces for mayor on her announcement against her. Just that. That's my entire platform. I'm against Maureen. I'm going to get T-shirts that say I'm against Maureen. I won't take any dollars at all in campaign donations. I'll just wear a T-shirt that says I'm against Maureen. Because she shouldn't be in charge of anything. Ever.
Ironic you brought up a sex scandal in schools.
It's ridiculous, Tom. It's ridiculous.
All I can say is that story will be told. I didn't put it on our list, actually, but I just forgot. But you had mentioned you want to talk a little bit about an incident that happened inside City Hall last Tuesday,
yeah. So,
just prior to the city council meeting.
Yeah. So at this point, I have no problem saying it. John Piccolo decided that he needed to get back at David Webb for a post that David Webb made about Piccolo's restaurant being the site of a fundraiser for Diane Biancheria, who we were just talking about now. And David put a post with Piccolo's and said racist convention. Okay. I don't agree with David doing that. I don't think that's right. That's not what we should do. But I don't agree that John should then go to City Hall in a premeditated manner with a can of spray paint and then spray paint David. And I
in his face, in the face,
intentionally assaulted him during the Pledge of Allegiance. John supposedly on his Facebook, a patriot for all patriots, but during the Pledge of Allegiance decides to, or the Star Spangled Banner, that's the time that he decides to assault David. He also did it when there's no police officers present, and he did it against the guy in David Webb. I don't care if you agree with David Webb or not. Me and David don't always agree. But let me tell you this. David is not a person who's going to harm anybody. He's not going to fight anybody. He's not going to punch anybody. He's not that kind of dude. So you assaulted somebody who wasn't ever going to fight back. That makes you a coward, John. I'm saying this live. And I've been dealing with all the people in the comments, Mark Frost, all these other frauds, absolute frauds, patriots with their thin blue line nonsense. And they go around saying, you're going to get you're not going to do nothing, dude. You let an old man do this. That's what you do. You let an old man go spray paint somebody because that's the way we treat people it's just so ridiculous. So I put a post in Worcester Political Dialogue. Is political violence ever something that we want to do? And I asked it with the intention of talking about that with you on this show. I wanted to talk about it with Tom. Okay, let's deal with the facts. There is no nation on earth, none, right, that exists that wasn't formed by political violence of some kind. Now, doesn't mean their individual nation, like Finland, did something bad, but sometimes the European continent was formed through, some really shady stuff. Okay, so there's political violence in the roots of almost every nation on earth, and we can go. And I'm only saying Europe because it's easy to pick on Europe because they have constant civil wars and strife and nonsense. Okay, and then we have what happened here. This is not political violence, Tom. This was just a straight up premeditated, cowardly assault. That's all it was. And when it comes down to it, it was a crime. It was a crime which he should have been arrested for at the scene. There was at least 5 witnesses that the police officers spoke to, according to the police report, had all identified positively John Piccolo spray painting David Wade with a dangerous weapon, which could cause lifelong harm to David through his eyes, right? He should have been arrested at the scene. I present this to you. If he was a young black man that did that, he would have been in jail that night. If he was a young Hispanic man, he would have been in jail that night. If it was me or you, Tom, we probably would have been in jail that night. But because John Piccolo is a connected dude in the city of Worcester, they let him go home. They let him go home. He should have been they let him go home. They did. They let him go. That's a fact. He was tackled on the ground by Charles Luster and Weha. They both had him held down on the ground. That's what happened. That is the facts of the situation. I've talked to both of them since then. And so this is what happened. When the police came, he was on the ground being held down by 2 people. That is the facts of the case, who then identified him as the assailant against David Webb, and the police let him go on his own recognizance. That's what happened that night. That is not normal police behavior. Even though the police were not present for the assault, they have the right to assault. They had 2 non-combatants, people not involved with the actual fight, clearly identify him while they were sitting on him in the hallway. That is a fact. That is a fact. And they let him go home. It makes no sense, Tom. Why did they let him go home? Why? Cuff him, take him to the police. He should have went to the police station that night. Anyways, I think he was arraigned in Worcester District Court on Thursday. I can't get the dates exactly. I put in a public records request to get the dates exactly from the police department. They just haven't fulfilled my request yet. I'm sure they will, because generally speaking, they post police reports like the week afterwards. So we'll get it anyways, and we'll get the exact details of how the police report was shaken out. But it doesn't matter. It was a straight premeditated assault. And I have reason to believe, I don't have 2 sources yet. I have 1 source on this. So it's out there, that the disturbance in front of the building may have been part of the plan. So the police were called away to a disturbance in front of the building. Why every single police officer left the post, I'm not 100% sure about that. And whether the policy is supposed to be, I'm going to ask this to the police chief. Hey, why did every police officer leave for this disturbance in front of City Hall? But I have reason to believe that may or may not have been involved in this premeditated act. Again, this is not political violence. This is just assault. And it's cowardly behavior. And this is what we're dealing with in the city of Worcester, because they don't like David, right? And David made a post that, I agree. I wouldn't make that same post. Don't do that. But it doesn't mean that you have the right to hurt him. You don't. You don't. And then on top of it, to have all the goons come out now, right? Like on Facebook, and they're like, he's lucky that's what he got. Really? Bro, your Facebook icon is a blue flag, right? Like, what are you doing, dude? You're gonna that gets to where it's like, are you threatening David basically, like if he stops talking about the things that he talks about, that now you're gonna assault him again? Is that what you're saying? Because that's a threat, and that's an actionable crime. Again, there's multiple of those, by the way, on Facebook. They're all over the place on a bunch of different boards. And don't even get me started about Seven Hills Political Exchange. I don't even want to. I don't even want to deal with it. Laughing at someone being hurt, joking about it. You're all disgusting. Like that's it. It is what it is. If I do ever run for a public office, don't vote for me. Don't keep your votes to yourself. I don't want them. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous, Tom. Sorry.
Yeah, so I wasn't aware that they let him go. I thought he was gone before he arrived, before the police arrived. But yeah, not good. It's awful interesting how people who claim that they are so supportive of the police are suddenly, above the law when convenient. One local person happens to be very involved in that group you mentioned, said publicly in a public post that the police chief was lying. The interim police chief was lying when he reported statistics on crashes on Mill Street. Just outright. This is somebody that, but if you ever say anything critical at all of the police, they're the first person to jump down your throat. But I mean, look, I don't know why we're giving this any, as it came out of my mouth, I don't know why we're giving this any time. These are just reactionary fools that just balk at things. That's all they do. Yeah. And they're no indication on some of the people that they support, because the people that they support are much smarter than they are.
I'm with that. My whole thing is this, Tom, right? Like, again, we just had a big election. The country made a decision. It is what it is. I have no horse in the game, so I'm cool with that. Whatever, it is what it is. But I do look at it like this: for a long time now, years and years and years, people have basically just gotten away with saying nonsense, right? And when I say nonsense, I mean bold-faced, actionable lies on a regular basis. And one of the lies that's pretty consistent is, "Oh, I'll do this to you." No, you won't. No, you won't. You'll do something like this guy did, which is a cowardly, premeditated act. You won't. You'll commit a crime. Sure, good. So does that make you cool? Does that make you tough because you decided to commit a crime? No, it makes you an idiot. So like that's it. And we have, in public forums, we've allowed them to just get away with this because, well, he's a local business owner, and you shouldn't say anything bad about a local. Well, he's a local business owner, did a terrible thing, stupid. And don't they know, the people that are defending him, right, that what he did makes it seem like what David said is more accurate. The behavior justifies the rhetoric. I mean, people now think. I have a question. Did you ever see David's post, Tom?
I did.
Okay. I saw it, right? How many of the people that actually go to Piccolo's saw that post? Really? Like really, really saw it? Because they all live in echo chambers. Same thing with the liberals. And they and I see things from both sides because, I'm able to navigate Colleen West's blocking of me. And so, I see a lot of posts in a lot of different places. I'm in a lot of different groups, you know what I mean? A lot of different things going on out there in the world. And you know what I find in all those different groups and all those different places? The people support whatever the narrative is there. And so most of it, I didn't hear about or see about that post until it was posted by Colleen West in her group, saying David Webb did this. And then within 2 days, we have this assault. So, I mean, correlation is not causation, so I can't say that post led to that. But I think a lot of the folks that are upset in the, I don't know what you want to call them, the Worcester Crank group, saw this post only a few days before, but David had posted this thing a long time ago. And this crazy stuff, like I seen in Worcester Political Dialogue, David announced his run for mayor a year ago, right? Like, so I saw that post that he announced his run for mayor. He didn't hide it from anybody, and people need to really review their proclamations about the political finance committee in Massachusetts and the way that they collect information. It doesn't matter. So yeah, I knew he was running for mayor, and I also knew that he made this post. And I saw both, and I saw them in both different worlds. But I don't know that a lot of the people that support John or are anti-David would stop going to this restaurant because of it. And word on the street is, I may or may not know a serving staff that works there, and I got to keep them. I got to use that word. I have to keep them secret because they've given me good information in the past, including like the where and the when of certain political meetings that have taken place at that restaurant in the past. But they've had booming business since this incident. Apparently, they've been sold out. They've had lines around the block. They've been unable to help deal with walk-up customers. People have had to wait for a long period of time. So turns out business is good in the retrospect of this incident and the rhetoric that David had. And since that post was made by Colleen in that particular group, apparently their business had gone up since then. So I don't understand the need to respond in this way. It doesn't make sense to me. It is what it is.
I mean, the people that are first to claim that just about anything is violence and anything is an attack on them, are the first people to actually resort to violence. It's kind of interesting. Yeah, I don't want to go down further down that. I'll say something I'll regret if I keep going down that wormhole. I get threats and nasty messages and all kinds of stuff all the time, and I just ignore it. Go ahead, do something. I'm old now. I wasn't always old. Don't force me to remember who I really am.
I am also old, and I am also not wanting to exhibit. I've received death threats, not just death threats. I had someone call my work and make up an entire incident. When Manny and I worked for What's Up Worcester, we were subject to multiple false accusations by the current president of What's Up Worcester. He allowed that stuff to go on, supported that stuff. So pick your news channels the way you want to pick, and just consistent false, nonsensical stuff. Threats have been made against me. But I wrote this in the post the other day. I've had people threaten me online, and then I've seen them in public. And you know what happened? Nothing to say. They complete, hey, John, how's it going? And I wrote that next time we're at whatever Worcester meeting we're at, because we're going to be at some meeting together, we'll have a piece of pizza or a cookie, and the person won't meet my eyes, because that's what it ends up being in this city. Backroom deals, fake political violence, actual crimes. This is how it goes in our city, and the only way to deal with it, I think, is to call it out, Tom. Call it out. Just point it out. This is wrong. This is wrong. This is wrong. This is wrong. And I guess that's the only way we can do it. You can't. Hey, this is how things are done. We do things behind the closed doors, and we did this and that. That nonsense doesn't work anymore. And I don't care what happened nationally. I care about this city. And my focus is on pointing out crimes and seeing if people actually believe in the rule of law, rule of justice, and the police department, if they allow certain things to, go forward. And believe me, in this next cycle, not only are you going to see it here on Managed Media and other places, but the stories that are going to be revealed are going to be mind-boggling to the people that are holding on to this thin thread, that there's this group of people that are like sacrosanct and never make any mistakes and never lie. because they do all the time. All the
got a couple more things here. We'll go through them quickly, though. Since the police chief just came up in that conversation, the current interim chief, Paul Saucier, there was 3 deputy chiefs who were trying to get welfare for cops, which is known as the civil service system, to insert them as the chief, even though nobody in the city wants any of them to be chief. And there was plenty of people in the city who want the current interim chief to continue on as the chief. But there was this blocking situation with the civil service, and the city had sent a bill to the state house, or sent a petition asking to opt out the chief and deputy chiefs from the civil service system. And it wasn't just Worcester, it was a bunch of them sitting in the dead pile, waiting for the end of year to be dead. And then, surprisingly, in kind of must-pass legislation, something the governor has been pushing since February, I believe. Both houses passed, and she signed a economic development bill that had a whole bunch of stuff in it. But one of its provisions was if a municipality had submitted a petition to the state and it was pending, between certain dates, which the Worcester petition was within those dates, it was automatically enacted. All the municipality has to do is send a letter to the state saying, yes, we still want this, basically. This thing that we already asked you for, yes, we still want it. And upon receipt of that letter, the thing becomes law, and therefore chief is in civil service and can be appointed by the city manager. So that hasn't happened yet. At least there hasn't been any official notice about that. But I would imagine it is coming down the pipe pretty shortly. So hopefully, certainly it is certainly not everybody in the city, right. But there is more support that I've seen, myself included, for this police chief to continue on, be named kind of the so-called permanent, the actually officially in the role rather than with the interim title. And I would imagine that's going to happen pretty soon.
I got two things related to this. One, as I understand it, and I'm trying to get them to talk to us about a potential article, but there was a universal push by the state legislative delegation, including by Republican State Senator Peter Durant, for this to be a priority for the the Speaker of the House. So there was a multiple person effort, a bipartisan effort. And so I applaud all the local state legislators who watch our show and read some of the stuff that Tom puts out there. Apparently they heard and they pushed for this. So good for them. And I understand that City Manager Batista also made many personal phone calls to state representatives and to the Speaker of the House about how important this was. So good for him, good for them. That's the reporting that I have about that so far. And the second thing is that I support this chief of police. I think that he's a good person to be in this role at this time. And I also want to hold him to what he said, which is he said he wants to do it for a short-term period of time. He's looking for to be kind of like a transitional chief. And I understand that announcement may be related to the amount of time that he says he's going to be appointed for. So you'll hopefully hear that soon. But we have reached out, and we'll see if there's comment coming from the chief of police.
Yeah, I mean, so far so good. I don't know him at all prior to me as a journalist. I don't have any background with him, but he's been impressive to me. He's certainly done thus far, I think, a great job. I mean, look, this was a police department that was concerning under the last two chiefs, and I have come around to largely attributing this to leadership. Over the last 20 years, the last two chiefs we had, it seemed like I of course don't know what they were saying behind the scenes, but it sure seemed like people understood that there wouldn't be repercussions for getting out of line, and there often wasn't. And these incidents, these massive lawsuits, and these ugly things have, knock on wood, so far not happened. I don't know what the reason is. I don't have any particular internal insight into is it really leadership, or what is it? I'm sure it's body cameras to some degree, right? More transparency is good on both ends, both for the public and for the officers involved. I don't know what the trick has been, but the trick's working so far. And again, after the last couple decades, I would like to see a good thing continue.
I agree.
And then a couple quick things. I just wanted to note this because it was an interesting move by the State House. So, of course, question one, we talked about this. Question one passed overwhelmingly with 72% of the vote, I believe. And that would enable the state auditor, who is elected but is in the executive branch, to audit the legislature. Mm-hmm. And so the first move to, stick a spike in this, in the will of the voters, is the House changed its rules to where it will, it's essentially instructed the House business manager to tell, upon receiving a request for an audit, to tell the auditor that they can pick any independent firm as long as they're accredited that they want. Right. And so their line is, if we're going to have an audit, we're not going to have a political audit. Let's have a real audit. According to State Auditor DeZoglio, what that also allows them, they already are in control of how much they'll pay for the audit. And so then by requiring an outside auditor, they can really control the scope of the audit because they control how much they're willing to pay for it. And of course, no company is going to do, more than they're paid for. So that's where it stands right now. They're not done. They're going to do everything they can to prohibit this. There is a constitution. This will end up in court. There is a valid constitutional issue here that should be respected. At the same time, we have the least productive and one of the most corrupt. Corrupt is the wrong word. One of the most centralization of power in any legislature in the country, in our system here in Massachusetts. The Speaker of the House has basically all the power, including wide discretion over controlling how much money you can make as a state representative. They do that through appointments to committees. The salary, if you get elected as a state rep, your salary is 10% below the state median average. That's what it's been to, 10% below. So imagine if you're, from Worcester, from Springfield, you got to work in Boston, 6, 7, 8 months a year, most of the week, right? It's not a cheap thing. And so getting appointed to committees is really important for your own income. And yet that's controlled by one person. And you can imagine how they would use that against you. So it's a really terrible system. And all but a few people aren't willing to stand up to change the rules to make power less concentrated, because, of course, if you lose that vote and you're on the wrong side of it, the punitive measures against you will begin. That includes controlling what legislative aid you get. That is actually important. You wouldn't know it by looking at Worcester. Or what office you get. So if you want to be, under the basement, vote against the speaker. It's a really terrible system that's going to continue. So they're going to take measures to limit this. This will end up in court. My prediction is no audit will ever happen.
Yeah, we predicted this was gonna be this way. It's an interesting tactic that they took. That very interesting is to say, well, hey, you can pick an auditor. which is
Yeah, because we don't want it to be political, and you're political. Meanwhile, that really changed. It really puts the whole ball in their court.
The question is I just haven't, as much as I just praised our local legislative delegation, I just haven't heard enough from legislators here in Massachusetts about why they think the public overwhelmingly said we need to look at your books. Overwhelmingly. And maybe it's because we think that you are cheating somehow, or maybe there's like evidence that you're cheating somehow, or like Tom just talked about, the fact that this system, the way that it's set up, we think that it's not right. Not to mention the fact, the history of that position being, federally indicted on a regular basis, and we've already gone over that. It's just at this point, as much as Massachusetts positions itself as like the best place in the country, to make money, the wealth gap keeps getting worse, man. And so regular people kind of want to know what's going on. And in this particular case, the state auditor, here's where behavior has consequences. The Speaker of the House, he treated her like dog crap when she was in the House. It is what it is. And so she won an election. And then I look at this ballot question as her second statewide election that she won, and dominated in dominating fashion. And if I were, the kind of like, business as usual, Massachusetts State House, I'd be afraid of Diana. I think she's built a statewide coalition, and I feel like she's coming. She's coming for some people, and she's coming for some jobs, and I'm all for it. Go after it. I agree that there's some constitutional questions about this, particular act or whatnot, but I really do think that I think all the books should be open, Tom. Every single one of them, including the secret military books and all that stuff. I don't see any value in hiding anything anymore. And so, and I pretty much most of the time, when you say you want to hide something because of security or whatever, I immediately suspect you as being in on some kind of scam. So, I'm down for whatever. I hope she wins. But I do agree with you, Tom. I doubt anything will ever happen, at least as the way the House, Senate, and governor's office is currently constituted, and Massachusetts court system, which is appointed by those folks. So I'm with you.
A group, Act on Mass, has been taking on looking for more transparency in the legislature for the last several years. A few years ago, they made a push for some rules changes. They wanted to term limit the speaker, which of course they were all defeated. They wanted to get bills earlier. I forget what the lead time is. I think it's 24 hours. You can get a multi-100-page bill and you have to vote on it in 24 hours because all the decisions have been made for you. You're just there to cast a vote, is how most legislators are treated in the House. You're there to just do what you're told. The number of people that voted, Erica Erdehoven, my personal, basically because of this fight, that's how she became my personal favorite state legislator, at least in the House, because she took this fight on. And of course, a bunch of gutless politicians all voted with the speaker because they do what they're told.
They do.
And look, you have to understand it in some way. Look, you're a state rep. Your job is to bring money back to the municipalities where you that you represent, and that becomes a whole lot harder when you start taking on the Speaker of the House, because he'll just freeze you out. He'll just freeze you out. So it's a difficult thing to navigate. Not a place that I endeavor to serve in anytime, unless it changes radically. Not that I don't want to campaign for anything ever, but because campaigning seems awful. But nonetheless, I don't know why you'd want to serve there, really. because it's the cult of one person, and then when that person's done or nearing indictment or in some sort of trouble, they just hand it to the next person, and then there's a whole new cult of personality. It is not the way legislative business should be done. It's a joke. It's embarrassing. It should change, and it's not gonna.
I'm with it. I don't know at this point. Like, it's just, yeah.
Yeah, it's a bad place. It's a bad place run by bad people.
It's a no good place.
And then lastly, I just wanted to put this on the screen here. I just screwed it up, I think. No, I didn't. Good.
You did good.
A couple weeks ago, it was I think just before our last show that we didn't do because illness, but there's been some chirping about this, which I think is a good statement. Basically says we're not going to target anybody. The mayor's kind of taking the position. Look, yeah, there's a problem at the border, and yeah, there's immigration problems. But I'm not in the federal government. I represent the people that live here, and I'm going to continue to do that. It's kind of been the mayor's take on this, which I certainly appreciate. All the people chirping about quote unquote sanctuary cities. This is the federal government's job. Local and state government have their own responsibilities, which is not immigration. And they should be enforcing local and state laws. And that's just it. It shouldn't need to divert resources to doing the federal government's job. It's just that simple. We hear a lot about how understaffed the Worcester Police Department is, and yet some people in our community think that even though they're understaffed, that it is a better idea for them that rather than enforcing local law, that they should be enforcing federal law, and that's frankly stupid.
I agree. Not only do I agree, but I put this post. The reason I went on this little rant post the other day was because I'm tired of hearing people so gung-ho to go. And by the way, this doesn't just seem to work in the like it's like we say it's like only the Republicans think this way. It's not true. There's a bunch of I guess centrist Democrats and also liberal Democrats that make the same statements all the time because they're basically the same team anyway, so it doesn't matter. But they're so gung-ho on we're gonna go after migrants. And there's this rhetoric from President-elect Trump that there's everybody who's a migrant is like a criminal. However, I went and watched all his podcast appearances on various shows, including the Joe Rogan thing. On the Joe Rogan thing, he admitted that he knows, because Joe Rogan asked him directly, you do know that not everybody who comes over here is a criminal. And he said, yeah, I know, but, we need to focus on those people. So he knows that they're not all criminals. Okay. Criminals being like they committed a crime, like a actual, breaking and entering, theft, whatever, that kind of crime. What he's saying, though, is, but they have to be arrested for coming across the border. So I just want to put this in perspective for a second. The immigration system is broken and needs to be fixed. However, folks that cross the border illegally, right, to come from one country into the next. Do you know what that crime is, right, Tom?
That's actually not a crime.
So, but what it is, if we were going to call the crime, is generally trespassing. It's just giant.
No, well, so it's actually less than that because trespassing is generally a misdemeanor.
Right. It's a misdemeanor. Yeah, that's what I'm saying with that.
Right, and so I'm not sure if this has changed now post-COVID, but pre-COVID, the way most people became undocumented in the United States had flipped in the last several years from illegal entry to unlawful overstay. And there's a reason why it's called unlawful overstay, because it's not illegal. It is a civil infraction.
This is someone whose papers have expired in some way.
Right. Came here on a visa and didn't leave, basically. So then you have, this period of COVID, and then you kind of have this backlog develop.
Mismanagement by the government. Right. Continue. I'm with that. Right.
Yeah, I mean, look, you got a 3,000-mile border. People are going to cross it.
They do.
It's going to happen.
Yeah. Why though, Tom? Why do they come here? Why do you think they come here?
Money.
Right.
So, and that's what I was actually going to get into that. So now, I mean, especially with the situation in Haiti, we've seen a lot of new Haitian immigrants, and post COVID, it's been a real. Seems like, at least from looking at the stats from Border Patrol, that it's become very mixed on where people come from. Prior to COVID, and I think that's really a result of a backlog, right? People weren't moving anywhere, and then the restrictions all came down. We went outside again, and people started moving. Who hadn't over better part of 2 years. But before COVID, it was very clear where people were coming from. They're coming from the Northern Triangle of South America. That's El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras. And much like Haiti, ironically, if you look at those three countries, under the Monroe Doctrine, which is a doctrine from President Monroe, that basically said the Western Hemisphere is America's playing ground, and no one should mess with that. Over the century of the 1900s, up until 2008 was the last time, actually, and all three of those countries, the United States had very, obviously, this isn't a disputed fact. The United States turned those governments over twice. Last time was in 2008 in Honduras, where they decided the person that was the president of that country didn't need to be anymore. That was the Obama administration, to be clear. And that goes back to in I believe El Salvador, they had after one of those, we don't like this leadership anymore, largely because they were elected as socialists, and so the United States said no, we can't have that, so we're just gonna pick a new leader. In multiple in El Salvador and Guatemala, I believe there was between 20 and 30 years of civil war that resulted from one of these foreign interference in domestic issues. And that leads to obviously horrible wars and failed states and people fleeing. So when states fail, people run.
Yes. Why? Why do they run when states fail? Because what happens?
Because they want to still breathe.
Yeah, because they want to survive. Right. So the people the vast majority, I get it. People come here, and the people that are easily upset about this are like the people at the bottom, because they're poor, and you have more poor people coming here competing for what our country gives poor people. So it is what it is. I get that that's easy to be made upset about, but in the end, they're just trying to survive, man. And so
let's be really clear about this, though.
Yeah.
We give very, very, very little to poor people.
Right, we give nothing to poor people, but what we give,
there is TANF, which has not changed a single dollar. It is not adjusted for inflation. It has not changed a single dollar since 1999. That's what we called welfare, temporary assistance for needy families. Has not increased $1 since 1999, a single dollar, not inflation adjusted. It's the same raw dollar amount in 99 as it is today, which means it's worth far less. There's WIC, which is women and I forget what it stands for, women and children. That's for pregnant women or women with very small children. And there's food stamps, which is what's it called now? SNAP, which we used to call food stamps. And that's supplemental nutrition. I forget what the two things stand for, but it's basically so people don't go malnourished. And that's about it. Yeah, and there's housing vouchers and that stuff, but I mean that's not necessarily giveaways. Like, I mean, I guess it is. I don't know. But you don't want people to be homeless, and you don't want people to be malnourished. Because you know what they can't do? Everybody's so concerned about a culture of dependency because you get 12 cents. You know what you can't do while you're malnourished and homeless? Work.
It's pretty hard. I mean, it's just these are narratives that have been created, but they don't reflect reality. And
Right.
they just don't. They don't. And so that's the thing, Tom. This goes back to the things we were talking about earlier. You just got to call stuff out, man. You just got to call stuff out. Like, this is not true. What you're saying is not true. The city manager and the mayor just recently repeated that the vast majority of unhoused people in the city of Worcester are not from Worcester. Not true. They have no data to back that up. They have no statistics to back that up. They haven't even done a real survey to say it. Yet they still repeat this false statement all the time, and they're allowed to get away with it. But I'm just at this point in my life where I'm just like, whatever, dude. I'm not going to let you get away with it anymore because it's just not true. Now, I can't cover every subject. I wish I could, and neither can Tom. But we can on this issue just say this. If you're so focused on the crime that you say is taking place when this person comes from country X to the United States, and you're just hopped up on, we got to stop the crime, right? Because then there's crimes that you say that are associated with that crime, right? They come here, and then, of course, apparently they commit crimes at this rate. By the way, no data to support that. In fact, the major survey done by the Trump administration says that people who are undocumented actually commit crime at a much lesser rate than people who were born here in the United States.
Which totally makes sense.
By the way, Tom Homan, the incoming chief of the Department of Homeland Security, authored that report. He signed it. It's hilarious. I love that report. It's just you gotta love when things just line up.
And understand that makes perfect sense, because people, nobody's got more to lose by getting arrested than those people. So they're not going to get, so that makes perfect sense. Hey, listen, this anecdotal thing that these hold on one second. This anecdotal thing that these reactionaries do, that they, an illegal immigrant kills somebody in Nebraska, and then that's all they want to talk about for the next 3 weeks, while scores of other people are killed, and they don't care about those people, right? They want to cherry pick cases when, in fact, it is just a statistical fact that you're far less likely to be harmed by an unlawful immigrant than you are a citizen.
Well, because when there's a horrific crime, and there are crimes that are horrific, we amplify them. And because we do live in a country that tries to rule by fear. Both sides, by the way, Democrats and Republicans. It's always like a fear-based approach, right? Be afraid of this, be afraid of that. If you vote for this person, it's gonna be like this, and blah 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 blah. And so we do the same thing with crime, which is why we amplify crime statistics and we amplify things. And it's related to the systems of oppression that have existed for a long period of time. Again, these are things that are factual, they're based on data and actual reality. But we promote things, and we make it seem like they're really, really bad. And it actually makes it harder for those things, to get fixed, for those issues to be resolved. Because when the ex-offender, whatever it is, crime they get out, they commit the crime again, we make it seem like that's really way worse than it might be. When there's actual solutions that could be applied, instead of locking more people up, we could, apply programming inside of prison or inside of a different kind of system, restorative justice, that leads to, Tom, lowered recidivism, right? There's actually data that suggests that if we did this stuff, that it could result in not having those things happen. But instead of that, we do hysteria-based things. And hey, in our industry, Tom, our industry, we're in journalism, we're in the media. In our industry, that's what some of our colleagues do. They love hysteria-based journalism, right? They just want to make the world is falling, the sky is falling, and the worst possible thing is happening because it clicks. You get clicks, you sell stuff, you get more sponsors, you get all that stuff that way. It's the worst possible thing. And I just don't want to do that no more, dude. I don't care about that. I want to focus on reality. And the reality is that in the city of Worcester, right? We have, the mayor and the city manager who have decided to make a bold statement, against the incoming federal government, which, by the way, 99% of what Tom Homan is saying is bluster and charade. 99%. 99% of it. He's not going to do none of what he's saying, because just like the guy on Facebook who said that he's going to do something to me because I disagreed with him about John Piccolo, isn't ever going to come punch me in my face. Tom Homan is very rarely, if ever going to come to a city. Maybe he's going to go after Michelle Wu, I guess, in Boston. But that's a constitutional crisis, deploying federal troops. And I mean, so then we'll be in a civil war, right? Because those kind of things are going to be really bad, really fast, deploying that kind of thing. So that's not going to just shift the way America is. That's going to change everything about our reality. And it's going to make the rule of law basically not exist. And so in that case, when people fight back, because there will be some people that fight back, it's going to lead to worse situations. I doubt very highly that Tom Homan, who, by the way, was in a position very similar to this before, has the gall or the balls to do what he says he's going to do. He's just going to talk and talk and talk. And they're going to find out real quick that it's very difficult to do what they're doing, to deploy the military, to round up. How many people are they saying now? 31 million was the number I heard last. It might be higher.
Yeah, which is, by the way, that would be wholly illegal, by the way.
And impossible, Tom. But let's pretend they made the laws work. It's impossible. They just are saying stuff, and people are like, they're going to do it. No, they're not. No, they're not. You're an idiot. You're an idiot. And you fell for it. I'm sorry to tell you, but you are. You stupid for believing that. Not you, Tom. Tom is not stupid at all. But, it's dumb to believe those things.
Yeah. They're going to deploy active duty military in the United States. That's what they really think they're going to do. Come on. That's not going to happen. And if it does, you're going to, you know what? If it does happen, you are going to have a constitutional crisis, because that's going straight to the Supreme Court.
I think that you're going to, I'm convinced, Tom, if they actually take, first of all, this also requires the military people that they're going to deploy to comply with being deployed on American soil, which, by the way, is totally illegal in the Constitution. No standing armies, right? Which we've had, they violated that law for many long periods of time. But it's going to be really hard. Anyways, it doesn't matter. Deploying the army, the National Guard, whatever version of it, and telling soldiers, you're going to go, what are they going to do? Go house to house? Are they going to get warrants? Are they going to just go in places? Like, how are they going to this? The strategy makes no sense. So again, I think it was just bluster, and you can already see some pivoting moves. Tom Homan talks a lot, but again, he's always talked a lot. And again, he authored the report that says that what he says is not true. So just whatever, dude. You know what I mean? I don't believe in anything that he's saying. And some of these cabinet appointments, people can sit here and pretend with Tom and I. They can say that these people are all outsiders and they're just like, they're gonna wreck everything. No, they're not. No, they're not. They're all insiders. Stop believing the hype, man. Stop it.
Yeah, I mean, look, we talked about this. I think a deciding factor of voters, looked at working class people looked at the choice between more of the same in the Democratic nominee, or burn it down with the Republican nominee, and I don't blame them.
By the way,
to burn it down.
Can I just say this? I do have a theory. The Matt Gaetz thing was a intentional move. It was an intentional move. I believe it 1 billion% to get this girl from Florida. Go look at this lady. Oh my goodness.
Oh, she's a clown.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's
but she looks like she's a superstar compared to the dude who's probably sleeping with 17-year-old girls in Congress, by the way. Apparently bringing them to Congress to do it. So I mean, it just, the reason why I believe it is because he resigned to
avoid the report coming.
Why did that happen? That made no sense. He's gonna fight. Like, oh yeah, come on, bring it on. Well, I'm gonna take it on, and I'm gonna corruption, and they're doing this on purpose, and all that nonsense that he said. But he resigned, and when he resigned, because he's a sitting member of Congress and he became a private citizen, it does change the rules of the ethics committee because he's no longer a member. So technically, they lost jurisdiction. However, they can finish that report based on the information. They can no longer collect information. They lost their judicial ability to require things. Now they'd have to now go after him as a private citizen, which they're not going to do because he's a Republican. The Democrats would have done it, but whatever. It is what it is. It was a setup. I'm convinced, a setup. And by the way, he makes Tulsi Gabbard look like a genius, right? So, I mean, like some of these moves. Did I actually hear? I did actually hear this. I heard Chuck Schumer and John Fetterman from Pennsylvania say that Marco Rubio is the most qualified appointment and totally Secretary of State. It's looking right now that Marco Rubio is going to have 85 votes in the Senate. 85 votes.
I mean, because he's the most sane of all of them, and that's not saying much. And yeah, I mean, the Israel Hawks will get behind Rubio because he's
he's an AIPAC guy all the way.
Yep. Palestinians aren't people. If you believe the Palestinians aren't people, you have a large contingency on Capitol Hill.
But he's not just an AIPAC guy. He's a military dude. Again, one of these guys, we've talked about this before, the NDAA, the only law or act in the United States that has been passed every single year since 1959, which is the National Defense Authorization Act. It always operates outside of the normal budget, and it has always been universally voted for, except for by like 3 dudes. Marco Rubio, big-time champion for the military and their money. And of course, so he has all that backing all the time. For anybody to think that they have already repositioned him. All of them, the Democrats and the Republicans, all on the same team. They're all moving the same way. Watch how they manipulate us, and they try to get us to think. Even Elizabeth Warren said that she's no longer a immediate no on Marco Rubio, right?
I mean, so because he's one of the few adults that have been nominated for positions.
What I'm saying is that 6 months ago she was saying that the dude's a Nazi. And now she's saying she's not an immediate no on him being the Secretary of State, the leading diplomat for the United States of America, right?
Yeah, but look at the track record, though. If they turn him down, he could pick Santa Claus next.
The thing is that they all are on the same team. It's just for show. It doesn't mean nothing to me. It's all a made-up story. And in the end, obviously, a lot of the public faces aren't necessarily the ones that are really
So I mean, yeah, in general, but I mean, on this specifically, I think it's, Rubio's, first of all, they know him. That probably helps.
Yeah.
And I mean, again, he's of all the people who have been nominated, he's probably the one adult. So why fight over him when we've got 12 other people to fight over?
Yeah. But they're all going to get through anyway, so it doesn't matter because they have 53 votes. They're all going to get through. It's a simple majority, so it's all going through, buddy. All going through. Cabinet picks are simple majority. 53, they got it all day.
Yeah, I don't think Gates was going to make it. That's why he dropped.
No, I don't think he was going to make it, and that's why I think he was intentional because I don't think she would have made it in normal circumstances. But because the Attorney General is a legitimately important post for our country, you need someone who has actual experience running, I don't know, an investigation at some point, not just being a lawyer. And Matt Gaetz is a lawyer, but he's not a lawyer who's ever run an investigation. So it's not like it was a joke pick the moment I saw it. It was never ever serious. I don't believe it for a second.
And I won't be surprised if RFK doesn't make it. I won't be surprised at all.
I mean,
he is such a quack.
He has a lot of positions. There's one thing that he does say that I like. One thing, and that's one thing only. That's the raw milk thing. He's 100% right about that. But the rest of the stuff, I don't know. I don't know where he comes up with. It's just like, what are you talking about, buddy? But it is what it is. I think he's going to win. I think he's going to get through 53. I think Susan Collins is going to vote against him, and Murkowski in Alaska, 51 gets him through. And if they lose a third vote, which the third vote would probably be the dude in Colorado that's like borders. What's his name? Oh. He just won. He's the guy who won just barely. He's Colorado.
I don't know. There was a lot of people that won barely.
I don't know. I just said there's another button that's like on the edge.
Well, we shall see.
Yeah, but Vance is the 51st vote. So like
Yeah, right.
they can lose 3 senators and still get them all through. Oh, I mean Romney's gone though, right?
Huh?
Romney's gone, right?
Yeah, but I mean, some worse Republican was elected.
Yeah. So I'm just saying they have everybody they want in place. They got 53 people, man. They really. I mean, on the Senate side, say what you want, but they dominated there. And
look that Chuck Schumer or the Speaker or the Majority Leader in the House, the Minority Leader in the House, still have jobs is unbelievable to me.
Yeah, they should. Yeah. How do you? I mean, and
resign.
I mean,
resign.
Some of the stuff that they say is unbelievable, right? So there's still 3 uncalled House races, so it's 220 to 213, and right now because those are uncalled, two uncalled, one California, one in Iowa. But if you go look at it, right, the Republicans are winning in both, and if they win them, then they actually gained a seat. And Hakeem Jeffries is like, hey, well we won back a couple seats. No, you didn't. They just didn't call those 2 races yet because there's an automatic recount in Iowa and in California. So
I mean, it is worth saying that like they got killed in the Senate, they got killed at the president, and that they all, that it didn't go so badly in the House. But I mean, still, it's a total failure.
But here's the thing: to me, it's an absolute stomping because this Congress, they couldn't have a Speaker of the House twice. And had an actual coup on the floor, and you lost to them. How is that possible? How did you not?
I mean, so this is how it's possible. Is generally everybody wants everybody to be voted out except for their person. Like if you're voting, the person you vote for is winning, you like them. Everybody else can get voted out. But and look, I'm not, I'm not much different. Like there's the number of people that serve in the House of Representatives that I would pick before Jim McGovern to represent me is few, very few. So I'm in the same boat. I like the guy that we're elected. I don't want to see term limits because I like him.
Right.
Or I don't want to see everybody voted out because I want him.
Yeah.
Because anybody that gets, anybody that's replaces him is almost by default going to be worse.
I get that. I like term limits only because I see natural corruption over time, but I also think that you have to look for competence too. So there's like a balance. How do you balance out competence versus time? You know what I mean? Clearly, Strom Thurmond should have been kicked out of the Senate, like 4 terms before he did. But, they kept rolling the dude out there all the time. To be honest with you, Joe Biden should have been kicked out of the Senate because he wasn't functioning well as a senator. How he got promoted blows my mind. But anyways, both sides, Republicans and Democrats, they just not doing the right thing over and over and over again. I don't know, man. I tell you what I do know is it's time for us to wrap this show up because we've gone over. But it was kind of like a makeup because we missed last.
Yeah.
Because I'm dying. I'm still dying now too. I have this stupid cold, and I.
Nobody cares about your health. Go to the last thing.
Okay, so as everybody knows, our loyal This Week in Worcester podcast watchers and listeners, you're just incredible human beings. At any time that you want to sponsor us, we'll totally take a sponsorship over here at the This Week in Worcester podcast. But Tom and I have the best part of the show every single week, and that is when I ask Tom about his favorite things. And it's various subjects and all this. But of course, it's Thanksgiving week, so we know where this is going. Tom, what is your favorite Thanksgiving dish? Let's go.
I mean, Dad's side of the family Sicilian. I'm going lasagna.
Lasagna on Thanksgiving. Whoa, what?
I'm just saying.
Lasagna. Oh my goodness. Oh man. Actually, I could use a lasagna right about now. I like a lasagna.
I'm saying, when is lasagna bad?
It's not bad.
No. I don't know. Like, I'm not the biggest. I eat the turkey, but you gotta put like a bunch of crap on it to make it workable. I'm kind of a fan of stuff. My mom, who's not the Sicilian side of the family, makes stuffing in a pan, not in the bird, and it's actually quite good.
Mm-hmm.
So stuffing, gravy, I guess I'll go with.
Okay, all right.
But I mean, real answer is lasagna.
Lasagna. Okay. I mean, lasagna is definitely. By the way, when did when did when did bland Thanksgiving become traditional? Thanks, I don't understand. Like you hear people call things traditional, and it's just like, what are you talking about? Like cranberry sauce and that kind of nonsense.
Yeah,
No, by the way,
white people stuff.
I'm anti. No. Certain white people stuff. Let's not. Don't you paint with a broad brush there, Tom Marino, because I am anti cranberry sauce and always have been. Big fan of the pernil on Thanksgiving. If you know what pernil is, you've been to a Hispanic household for Thanksgiving. But anyways, it's just pork, made in a very nice, delicious way. Yummy, yummy, yummy. I'm a white meat kind of guy with the turkey, but I cannot not have stuffing. If you gotta have the stuffing, and it's gotta be stuffing like up in there. Like take the bird, get it in the bird, and get that stuffing in there. I want that stuffing, and I want that good. And then my mom, bless her heart, my mother used to make this incredible pumpkin pie with marshmallow mixed in to the pumpkin, and it was before all the
With marshmallow. Weird.
Right. That's right. It's very important. Very important. And you have to make it in a certain way because the marshmallow cooks a little bit differently than the pumpkin stuff. You know what I mean? But pumpkin pie with a little bit of marshmallow all swirled in there, full of whipped cream on top. Very, very good for Thanksgiving. So that's my favorite thing. Happy Thanksgiving, buddy. I know it's time for us to wrap up. I should be back to somewhat normal next week. I'm still not feeling well, but we'll figure it out. We'll get through it. Get through it together.
You get 1 day off a year, so you're screwed now.
That's it. That's my last day off.
That's it.
All right, buddy.